After the U.S. trade war with Canada began, the Canadian government responded with counter-tariffs on some American-made goods. However, the supply chains of both countries are highly integrated, and American importers of Canadian goods can pivot to alternative suppliers. In the case of pickles, Bix pickles, at least, it's Canadians who arguably are left with a bad taste in their mouths. Sylvain Charlebois is professor and director of the Agri-Food Analytics Lab at Dalhousie University, one of our regular guests on food-related matters. Sylvain, thanks for being with us. Explain the pickle of the situation we've got here.
Yeah, exactly. Literally. Yeah, Bix pickles are a great example of how intertwined both economies are in North America. You see, Bix used to have a plant in Scarborough, close to Toronto, where you are, but it closed after it was actually acquired by Smucker's, moved to the U.S., but the company still was buying pickles from Canada, from Canadian farmers. Lids on those jars are still Canadian to this day. Now, the new owner, Treehouse, has actually continued that practice. But now, when these pickles come back to Canada in a jar, they're facing a 25% tariff, forcing some grocers, not all grocers, but some grocers, to not carry those products anymore, and they're encouraging customers, particularly Sobeys, to buy their privately labeled pickles. And some of them are actually not from Canada; they're actually from India. So it tells you how complicated things are when it comes to counter tariffs, really.
And I guess also, everybody keeps debating, and we, hear the Prime Minister talking to the premiers and everybody about retaliatory strategies. But whether or not, given that we've seen a number of countries around the world that have not engaged in retaliatory measures, sort of the economic cost, I suppose, even if it feels unfair to be targeted by the United States.
I can't judge whether or not counter-tariffs are good for the economy when it comes to other sectors of the economy. But when it comes to food, John, margins are so tight. 25% is humongous for the food chain. So I can't blame grocers, and in this case, Sobeys, deciding not to carry the product because it just wouldn't make sense. They feel that perhaps the product would not be affordable to Canadians, but Bix is a really popular brand, and that's why a lot of people are noticing empty shelves, and there are empty shelves out there. It's not because we're running out of pickles. It's just some grocers have decided not to carry the product. My guess, John, is that we could actually see more of these things. The biggest concerns at a very high level is food inflation. As soon as you actually rob the market, you take an option out of the market, you eventually will see food inflation go up again. And that's the concern that certainly I have right now when it comes to a case like Bix.
And then, the other thing that materialized, given this lingering uncertainty, was sort of the homegrown opportunity to reduce sort of, the friction moving across provincial border lines. I remember hearing a lot about that, but I still feel like, if you're in the food industry, you're waiting for more to materials on that front. When it comes to our own supply chain here in Canada, is there anything cooking on that front right now?
Cooking, yeah, I see what you did there. I'd say right now things are in flux. The heavy lifting has to come from provinces, and we're seeing many provinces wanting to eliminate barriers. We are seeing provinces wanting to empower provincially licensed facilities to export outside their own province, which obviously would increase competition and keep prices lower for consumers. That would be a good thing. But there is a reason why Smucker's left Canada back in 2011 or 2012 is because the economics were not there to keep a plant here. Now, have economics changed in Canada? With fewer barriers, probably, but there's still there's still a lot of work to be done in order to convince a company like Treehouse to reinvest and actually onshore their facility right here in Canada.
All right. Really helpful conversation, Sylvain. Getting into the specifics of a trade story that gets cloudy and complicated. We appreciate it. Sylvain Charlebois joining